Oh, there we go.
Instagram cat. It's a hard cat. Instagram.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, we all living so far apart. You know, we ever get together and do anything. But someday, if I ever get back out to, I've talked to Van and Mark both recently. I've talked to Van.
Well,
usually a couple of weeks.
Well, so do you want to talk more, or
yeah, I don't care if you got any more questions.
Or have a nice Saturday in your garden with.
Yeah, if you have any more questions, that's fine. Otherwise, I'll go and do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bueno, nos comenta Gary que si queréis hacerle alguna pregunta más, que por él ningún problema. Es súper majo. No os voy a decir nada que no hayáis visto. They're coming back again. Any shows coming up? Any shows coming up? Live concert coming up?
I haven't. Let's see. I've only played. How many times did I ever play? I played like live shows in the late '90s, like maybe 3 times, just acoustic. It's possible. I don't know. Of course, with the virus situation, nothing soon, but I don't know. I just
maybe holidays in Europe.
Well, part of the problem is I live in the middle of nowhere. You know, I live like what's I don't know if there's anywhere in Spain where it's like so far away to it's 200 miles to the closest big city. You know, like we have a small town. It's about 100,000 people in San Angelo, but we're like, that's it. You know, there's nothing for hundreds of miles around. It's West Texas. East Texas is different. It's like there's a lot of people. West Texas is all like arid, deserty, and it's a lot like where I grew up in Ellensburg. Actually, it's just a little farther because Texas is bigger. Of course, it's everything. Yeah, Ellensburg was a lot like San Angelo, but smaller. It was 100 miles to Seattle, and you know had to.
Yeah.
But. Yeah, so that's why I really haven't done. You know, if I lived in a bigger city, I probably would maybe try to play places and stuff. But I may do that sometime. I don't know. I've thought about it a lot more. Until a couple years ago, I really just was pretty much hermit, not doing anything, even on Facebook. And then after I released my last record, the Unicorn Curry, which is right here, Unicorn Curry record. After I released that a couple years ago, it was like about a year and a half ago. I just decided, well, I'm going to try to promote the record more and try to do more stuff, and maybe do some live shows, at least acoustic, or electric, just with just me. But I got on Facebook a lot more, and I did a lot more interacting with people. I mean, I've always, my whole life, even like before the band, it's amazing I was ever in a band, because I was like, the only reason I got in the band was because of my brother Van and his friends. I was like total didn't like to be around people and stuff. So, but I forced myself to answer, questions on Facebook and put more stuff out there, and use the band to promote the Screaming Trees, to promote my solo stuff.
Okay, I think you are one of your time of late 90s of late 80s more active in Facebook, for example. Talks with the people, and I love it. So other no, they aren't so much in Facebook, for example.
Yeah, maybe they got more to do. Well, like I said, like the main reason was I realized that I could use the Screaming Trees to promote what I'm doing now. I mean, if you're in a band that was fairly well known and now you're doing something else, you're like, well, I used to be in this band, and now here's the stuff I'm doing now. Hopefully, it's at least close to song-wise as good as the stuff I did now. But I record everything. Also, I record everything in here in the room, my studio, which I call International Recording. But it's just in our house. But I do everything on the computer, and then mix it and put it out. And you know, it's really one of the reasons I didn't really do anything until about 10 years ago is because the internet has expanded enough where you can do all your music on the internet. And now that's basically all there is. I mean, if it wasn't for the vinyl revival, it would be everything would be digital. It's completely.
It's so different, no? Than you start with the Screaming Trees and before the grunge or sub pop explosion in Seattle and
yeah. The thing is, we were a band and doing stuff on SST before any of that happened. So it kind of just and we were from Ellensburg, which is along over the mountains from Seattle, and didn't really have anything to do with Seattle. We didn't even know there was a music scene over there. And when we started in 1985 or 86, there wasn't much of one. But there were a few things going on, but it took us a couple of years to really hook up for them. We got signed to SST, toured the US, toured Europe, and then we're coming back and like, oh, there's Seattle stuff going on. By then, Mudhoney, Nirvana, Tad and stuff were going on in Sub Pop, 89 or so. And
so I think you are of the generation of Tad, Green River, and not the Nirvana and the second generation of Seattle bands, just the first. Steve Fisk, Grand Track, and bands like this, no Blood Circus.
Yeah, I mean, we just sort of logically.
And a little weird. The Screaming Trees are a little weird.
Yeah, well, we were different, all the bands in Seattle were different, but we were like, kind of like psychedelic rock band. It's kind of like, we had a lot of influences. That was because I was writing, most of the songs. That was the way it came out, and but the rest of the band wasn't so into psychedelic rock, so so we weren't just like some kind of, didn't end up being like a psychedelic revival band. It was more like we were a band that was influenced by a lot of stuff instead. And Mark's work on the songs, and Van wrote songs too, especially in the later days. By the time we got on Epic and finished Uncle Anesthesia, we realized, maybe we should try writing some songs together finally again. We did that when we first got together, but then it kind of became like I would write songs, give them to Mark, and he would like change some of the lyrics, all the lyrics, or none of the lyrics, depending on what song. And then we got this together with Sweet Oblivion. We all got together all the time. By then we were all living in Seattle. It was sort of slowly transferred to Seattle. First Mark Flanagan moved over, then Mark Pickerel. Of course, then he quit the band. But then band, so it took everyone a while to get to Seattle. By 1992 or 91, we were all living in Seattle, and we were practicing in Seattle, and we were going to shows and playing, shows there and stuff like that. So then suddenly, all of a sudden, Nirvana was already really big. They were huge in the underground, and then suddenly they got regular famous. Like that was just a really weird time for everybody. Yeah. And it still just seems surreal, the whole grunge explosion. But it was weird. We would never, if it hadn't been for that, we would have gone to a certain level. We would have had records on SST and maybe one or two major label records, and people would have been like, that was that band from Washington that was on on SST or whatever.
But let you go to other cities and make tours and play in cities.
Well, when we got on Epic Records, suddenly it's like you're on a major label, and at the same time, like after the first Epic album came out, the grunge thing got big and exploded all over. And so, and we really, the reason we wanted to go to a major label was, to take it to another level, because we'd done a whole bunch of tours, a whole bunch of records on SST. Well, we're going to keep doing this, and we're going to try to do something more. And, the idea was to try to do something more. Luckily, the grunge thing came along, and we got to do like big tours and play in front of a lot more people and sell all the records. And you know, and actually become part of rock history, which is pretty amazing to me still. It's like,
But it's a
like us hanging out with people like, you know, in Seattle, like in the early 90s, to me, it was like, you know, like people in the 60s, like in San Francisco or, you know, like hanging out in LA music scene or London music scene, you know, like Hendrix and the Who or something. You know, I was like, when I saw Nirvana the first time in Ellensburg in 1988, I mean, it was like, I felt like at the time, it was like, God, this must be a scene like the Who or something, like when they were like, nobody knew who they were. And, you know, in retrospect, it really was. And I never would have in a million years imagined that that would have happened, you know.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
kind of thing that, you know, dream
Weird, crazy, and beautiful too, I think. Weird, crazy, and beautiful.
Yeah.
I think it was a nice time for the music, and for the rock music, really, for the live music, for the bands who record live or natural in a studio.
Yeah, well, that was what was really cool about the Seattle scene, was that there was just a whole bunch of bands doing what they wanted to, and they were a lot of them were friends and liked each other's music. You know, like a lot of my favorite bands were like our friends.
Yeah.
You know, Love Battery was another great band.
Love Battery. Well, I have some CDs of that era, and the records of Jack and Dino, and always natural, always put microphone and play, and the interpretation, the feel of play music and enjoy it.
Yeah.
Not so technical.
Yeah, his production was really a big part of the sound. I mean, nobody knew it would be. It was just, he had, you know, certain ideas about recording and ways to record, and it turned out that, you know, went real well along with what everyone was doing. I mean, that's what the reason that we did Buzz Factory with Jack and Dino is because we really liked the way the Mudhoney EP sounded. Yeah. You know, we wanted to record with that guy. You know, and you know, he brought, and also we'd only recorded with Steve Fisk before that on 8-track in Ellensburg at Velvet Records. So that was the first time we got out and actually, you know, got more than a couple tracks for drums and stuff. And you know, Steve Fisk did a great job with that 8-track. I mean, he pushed it to far beyond the limit of what
maybe Chris Cornell was in your records in the studio, in everything.
Steve Fisk.
Yeah.
And
Chris Cornell too. Oh, like a friend helping with the sound or compositions or.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he played keyboards on a lot of this stuff, especially in the earlier days. He played keyboards. He's a really good keyboard player, besides being a really good producer. And, yeah, I mean, we were, you know, it was weird because we were making records like, you know, we thought that big bands used to make records in the studio. The studio was really nice. It's weird. It was a big studio.
60s psychedelia.
Yeah, well, exactly. We actually, it wasn't like we had to go in Ellensburg and record in a couple of days. We would take several months to record those SST records. And it was a big studio, had a nice, you know, it was a really large room. The only weird thing was it just had this 8-track recorder. So it was like, you know, Steve, you know, knew a lot of old recording tricks and stuff like that. And, yeah, that's how, you know, we took time, really took a lot of time, and really tried to polish them up as much as we could. I know, you know, the production is weird, different on different records because we wanted to do different things. Like, I don't know if criticize is the right word, but on like Invisible Lantern, on that record, for the drums being so quiet, but that was like what we were trying to do, at least the guys in the band. Steve wanted to turn up the drums, and of course Mark Picker wanted to turn up the drums, and me and Mark were like, we want the guitar and the vocals really loud, like to sit on top of everything else. And that's pretty much what it was. So if people do listen, that was definitely an artistic decision to have the guitar and vocals way louder than everything else on Invisible Lantern. So, you know, maybe someday remix it, although the tapes are
Nothing better than the recording
ether.
with friends. Nothing better than recording them with friends, no?
Yeah. Yeah, we okay, I didn't quite get it. Yeah. Was that a question? I didn't understand if that was a question or not. Sorry.
No, I say it's nothing better than recording an album with friends.
Yeah,
Like
with friends. Yeah, that would be,
Jack,
it'd be nice
good
to record
friends.
that. It'd be nice to record out with friends, but I don't know if we ever did that. Because all we're like, I don't know. We always had trouble getting along. Everybody in the band had trouble. You know, it was like me and Bam were brothers, which just, you know, that alone. And then it was, our band was like a dysfunctional family. You know, it's like, that's what we all looked out for each other and stuff, but there was like, you know, everyone, at least at some point, you know, later on, I think everyone appreciated what each other did in the band. But, you know, maybe in the earlier days, it was kind of like, I don't know, it wasn't really a competition because it wasn't like somebody else was trying to write songs. You know, I was just writing the dang songs. And that was what I did. I started writing songs about a year or two before we started the band because I got a 4-track and I've been writing poetry for years but couldn't write songs. But then the 4-track cassette recorder freed me up. And by the time Mark came along, he listened to some of the songs I've been doing. It was like, that was right when we decided to get a band together. And he was like, we should try to do some of this stuff. And we started out trying to write some stuff together, like especially like on the Clairvoyance record, there's probably some stuff that was written together. But by the time we got an SST, I was like writing a lot of songs. And then I gave tape to Mark, and Mark would be like, this is great, or this is horrible, you know, whatever. And then he liked it. He'd make it as much less psychedelic as he could because he didn't want to, you know, I don't know, like Plastic Land. I don't know if you heard of Plastic Land. They're actually one of my favorite bands, but I don't think he liked that record too. I remember him liking that, the first Plastic Land record. They're from Milwaukee, and they were like, they weren't exactly psychedelic revival. They were about as psychedelic as you could be, and they were from the '80s, though, you know. So it was a little,
the musical memory. Let's say a good friend of mine. You and your brother found early records of Screaming Trees and your first bands and your first musical projects, or
on which record? I'm sorry.
With the first band, would you play with your brother? And not in Screaming Trees.
Right. Yeah, we never recorded it. Yeah, the two bands we had, which included Mark Pickerel, some of them, he quit and came back, and we had a different drummer. But it was the first one we had was called Him and Those Guys. Him and Those Guys. That was like, and then we also had a band called The Explosive Generation, which was named after an old William Shatner movie from the early '60s, which was, but we did covers, and we did, you know, we didn't have any idea what a band that did original songs, how it began, how you could be a band that did original songs. We were just clueless because we were in the small town, and the only bands we ever saw coming through town were cover bands. So that's what we did. But we did covers of, like, you know, we did the Beatles and maybe like the Dead Kennedys and, you know, Black Flag, and maybe like Black Sabbath. But also, like, maybe even like I remember we even did like Def Leppard songs, you know, and new wave stuff too, like, you know, Flock of Eagles. That was a real eclectic mix.
Funny moment.
Any kind of rock music, you know. But that's what our influences were, all over the place. You know, we weren't just influenced by, you know, I started out being influenced mostly by, you know, the Beatles at first, and then I got really into art rock, like Yes and King Crimson and stuff when I was in high school. And then I finally, in the early 80s, discovered like punk rock and new wave and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I really into that. And the whole time I'd been into psychedelic music too. But that right about the time we started the band was when I was really getting into the Pebbles garage rock collection. And also there's an English version of that called Rubble. It has like a lot of freak beat, UK 60s psychedelic stuff. And right about
Canterbury sound, no?
Uh-huh.
The Canterbury sound.
Yeah. So, you know, that was like,
and that
was, like,
psych band, folk, psychedelic, or
yeah. In the 80s, there were a lot of newer bands that were like, you know, the LA Paisley Underground bands, like the Rain Parade and the 3 O'Clock, Long Riders, you know, a lot of those bands. So that was kind of like, I was thinking like, well, we should be a band like that. So that was my idea for the band, was like, like Paisley Underground band or something. But, you know, I don't know what the other guys' ideas were. You know, I have no idea because they didn't write too many of the earlier songs at all. You know, I don't know. But yeah, it would have been interesting if we would have had more songs the other people would have written in the band. You know, I mean, Mark, it's weird. Mark never even started one song. I mean, all the songs, pretty much there's a few songs that Van Him wrote together, a couple earlier ones, and then later on, like on Sweet Oblivion, like Dollar Bill and Julie Paradise are both Van and Mark. But Mark never like said, here's a song that I wrote or that I'm working on and we should do it. Even like when after he like had, you know, a couple solo albums, I never understood why he didn't, you know, like start.
I have adapt with hearing you with the vocals, the melodic, the voice melodics. If you want to say, who made the Screaming Trees voice melodies?
Who made the what?
The melody. In the Screaming Trees.
Yeah.
Who made the vocal melodies? Not the letters of the lyric or the lyrics, the melodies.
Oh, the melodies? Mostly, well, it's like, you know, it depends on the song. Mostly the ones that I wrote, probably, let's see, you know, a few, if you talk about the last 2 albums, Van and I worked on some stuff together. And then, of course, Sweet Oblivion was sort of like, you know, mixed all over. We were working on a lot of the songs all together. In general, I was the songwriter, and Mark was at least partially part of the lyrics. You know, if we would have, you know, SFT stuff, we just, you know, we're like, well, let's credit it to everybody. So all the songs are credited to everybody. If you go way back to like, even if and especially when, the one song I know that Van and Mark wrote together was Straight Out to Any Place. That's probably more like what kind of band we would have been like if it wouldn't have been for my songwriting. That's
so surprise me, hear you singing and say, yep, this is the melodies are from you, not from Mark. I think.
Right. Yeah, you know, there's a few songs that I probably wouldn't play myself because I didn't really like Dollar Bill, for instance. I recorded Van and Mark. I was right there when they wrote it, but I didn't write any of it. Or Julie Paradise, I didn't write any of that. But you know, Nearly Lost You is mostly Van's song. He came up with the chorus and stuff, and then him and me worked on the verses together, and that's how that one came about. So, you know, there's some, so I probably would never play Nearly Lost You. People wanted me to, I don't want to do that song. But, you know, and with the lyrics, it's hard sometimes because, like, you know, if I'm doing old songs, I go back and look at it, like, is that the right lyric? Because was that my lyric? Or was that something Mark changed? Or, you know, I don't know.
Well, I mean, like
a
band, no?
An example of some of Lanigan's early, if you want to, like, you know, get into like analyzing Mark's lyrics, like the one song that he wrote all the lyrics to, I know, is The Pathway on Even If Especially When. That song was, I had the music and I think I had the melody. He might have come up with the melody too. and he wrote all the lyrics of that song. That's one of the few older songs that he wrote all the lyrics to, probably, of anything before Uncle Anesthesia. So, yeah, it's
Well, I think
confusing, you know, because in a way,
I think the important is do you make this for the band? Because
yeah,
band is I know I'm the author, or you are the author, or are mine, are yours, or but in your solo albums, well, surprise me, your melodic vocals.
yeah,
So remind me to Screaming Trees, and
yeah,
the singer in Screaming Trees is so characteristical, so peculiar, or mm,
yeah. Well, you
and
know, one of the ways,
you made natural. So
yeah, you know, my voice has always been like, especially when I first started, like, you know, singing on my demos, I was like trying to sound like Sky Saxon. I'm like, you know, or just that really fakey. So a lot of the old, if you listen to the old demos of the Screaming Trees, you probably, which I've never released any of. Like, I've released a lot
yeah.
of demos of songs that I did, but not
Mhm.
Screaming Tree songs, you know, because I have a lot of songs that were never released. I doubt I would ever do that, even though, you know, someone would be interested in it, but my voice would have been like you know, like the Sky Saxon on steroids type of thing. Just, I don't know why I was into that, but I mean, Mark learned how to sing while we were doing our records. You know, if you listen to Other
Mm.
Worlds, that's what his voice first started.
Yeah.
It was like very high. It was higher. He
Mm.
didn't really know. He hadn't really sang with bands before, and he didn't have any idea that he had this amazing voice that was
Mhm.
hiding inside him.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's sort of by the time we finished our Clairvoyance, it was obvious he could sing pretty darn good. And he kept, you know, working on it. And in the thing he was, you know, cutting his teeth was my songs. So that was a
Mm.
little weird for him, I guess, you know. But
Yeah.
it wasn't until, what, I guess 1989 or 90 when he started working on his own stuff and did the
Yeah.
solo album. So,
I think everyone who knows who you are and the Screaming Trees
yeah,
listen an evolution of Mark's voices around the albums, around your discography, and before Screaming Trees.
yeah,
There are
yeah. Just
no
like, if you
new,
listen to Other World,
nothing new in her vocals.
yeah,
So, well,
right.
well, if you wanna play another song to say goodbye,
Yeah, I could do one more.
um,
I got an interview I got to do it too, but let's see. I got one more I can do. What will I do?
yeah.
About where's my? I'm looking for my lyrics. So, no, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? I'll try this one. This one's kind of hard because it's got a weird meter. This is from the Micro.Gnome album. Let me get my guitar back on. All right, guitar is on, and it's not plugged in. No wonder. Okay. So guitar's unplugged. All right, I do this and then I gotta go because I gotta do this other. It's called "Confessions of the White Rabbit." All right. I confess I've been a mess and now for a million days, crucified and analyzing black and haze. Cheshire cat brought a bladder back from the 35th century. That ass cap until the CA traps me in a hat. Another please, but going home. Where's it at? Oh, my rabbit hole in the town. I don't know. Oh, my rabbit hole, get me down.
Mm.
Turn me on to this maddening gaze. That had me twitching fever without ever seen made. Mocktail soup and a loop, foggy eyed off the coast of Spain. In my boots and no time to shoot. Laid it out so plain. I'm gonna oh, my rabbit hole. I'm gonna oh, my rabbit hole. I'm gonna oh, my rabbit hole. Get me down. Get me down. Get me down. Get me down. All right. From the micro.gnome album, Confessions of the White Rabbit.
I'll help you with the promo. No problem.
Yeah.
I need to translate my words, and I want to say to you, I hope that today a beautiful relationship has started.
Cool. Yeah, definitely.
And I continue learning from you.
Thank you.
Really, from my heart. It was so special on Thursday. The 10 minutes we are talking. I talk English so bad, but
yeah, I can't even imagine.
I try.
Yeah, I used to speak a little bit of German, but I can't even imagine trying to speak another language. I mean, you know, people in the United States are like, you speak Spanish, like, you know, like they don't want people to speak Spanish because, like, you know, half the people in Texas are Hispanic. Yeah. But, you know, they don't. People in the United States are so biased against people who speak other languages. But on the other hand, it's like we're stupid because we don't do it. Because, like,
don't worry, with you,
you know, like think in two languages at the same time. You know, it's like
yeah. Don't worry, with you I can learn about music, yeah, and English too.
Yeah. Auf Wiedersehen.
So was an honor, really.
Huh?
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I had a good time.
We'll see you.
Yeah, I'll do another
Facebook. Another time. Hope you and see you.
Yeah, definitely. I'll come back and do
that. Stay safe.
You too. Don't get sick. Okay. Later. Thanks a lot. Oh, shut